Just tuning in, I am Adrienne Lahens, COO at Influential. Influential is a data and insights platform that powers campaigns across social, leveraging influencer content optimized to deliver measurable business outcomes like in-store sales, foot traffic, TV tune-in, and of course, online conversions. So let's get on to the panel. Shelby, Christopher, and Jeremy, we would love to hear a little bit more about each of your backgrounds and what led you to your current roles at Walmart, Rhone, and MeUndies. Christopher, let's start with you.
Good morning, everybody. And Adrienne, thank you so much for inviting me. My background's pretty diverse. I started off in traditional magazine publishing, always specializing in the fashion beauty areas, and ran the publishing side for a number of top brands like Details and Elle and Marie Claire Cosmo in the US and in Europe. So I've been in the fashion circuit for a while. I was approached by Walmart about a year ago to join their team and just saw a huge opportunity of an exploding e-commerce business, a massive retail business, and honestly, the ability to go into a traditional huge company and shake things up a bit and innovate. So it was too hard to resist.
That's great. And Christopher, if you could just turn your camera on.
Oh.
I think there is a button on the bottom.
There you go.
Yes, there we go. Perfect.
Clearly not an ace at technology, even though I have a massive website. Good morning, everybody. Now you can see me.
That's perfect. It is the quote of the year, I think. Unmute and turn your camera on. Awesome. Thanks, Shelby.
Yeah, so I started at actually a small startup called High West Distillery in Park City. And at the time, they didn't really have a marketing team and they had no social presence at all. And I kind of came as this young whippersnapper, like, I know how to do this all. And we saw really awesome organic growth, from nothing. And I think that speaks a lot to, like, when you have a great audience, you can see that growth happen. So I worked with them for 5 years, marketing department. They got bought by Constellation Brands. And then a friend of mine actually worked at Rhone, and I had heard about them for sure, but they were still pretty much brand new. And I was, missing the startup scene and missing that kind of like small team grind and just like really exciting hands-on growth and, really being able to teach all the things and be really involved. So I joined them 2.5 years ago. And I started as social media specific and then grew, just kind of kept on grabbing all of the roles and tasks. And it's been so exciting to see the growth over the past couple of years. I'm excited where we're going. So
awesome. And in case anyone is just learning about Rhone, can you tell us a little bit about the brand?
Yeah, of course. So Rhone is a athleisure, like premium athleisure company. We have commuter style, training styles, recovery, like really covering all aspects of what you need as a male only. So even though I'm not personally able to really enjoy it, my fiance lives and breathes in it. So I get to watch him enjoy, reap the benefits. So we're specialized in clothing, but we also kind of have like an online journal. We provide a lot of content online for our communities, and we have these little base camps kind of all over the US with our community captains to kind of bring a more tangible experience and bring Rhone to life in that way, where we, originally were just online. We have a couple stores that have just opened in the New England area. So.
Great.
Great. I'll go next. So I'm Jeremy. So my background has really been in the beauty industry. I spent about 18 years, mostly in the big beauty brands. I started my career at the Estee Lauder companies, at Aveda, just a few years post-acquisition, worked on product development and marketing, and then touched e-com as I was one of the first brands that piloted e-com at the Estee Lauder companies back in the early 2000s, which feels like decades ago at this point, and then made the move over to Coty, where I spent the bulk of my career working in mass and celebrity fragrances, and then worked on the integration post-acquisition of Sally Hansen and worked my way through that marketing team and eventually ran that brand globally for about 4 years and worked on the relaunch, and globalized the brand. So that was super exciting for me. I had the opportunity to rebrand and relaunch it, and bring the founder story to life, which had never been told. And then decided I got the bug to try an indie brand. And I think, once you work in the big beauty spaces or big portfolio companies, you always hear about the mystere of the small brands, but never, you either get to buy them and work with them, or you just learn about them as they eat away at your market share. So I decided to try my hand at one instead. And I went over to Kopari, relocated after many years in New York City out to California, worked at Kopari for about a year and a half as their first CMO, and then made the jump in the middle of the pandemic over to MeUndies. And I've been with the brand now for about 6 months as their first CMO. And what really brought me to MeUndies, if you don't know MeUndies, it's an underwear, loungewear, and sleepwear brand. Really pioneered in the subscription model for underwear. Like, whoever thought you need a subscription to underwear? Now I have one and I love it. And so I joined as their first CMO, but really what attracted me was their value prop, their culture, and just the way in which they brought to market and disrupted a category that had been somewhat sleepy for many years.
Jeremy, how would you describe kind of going from, really big, super well-known, set of brands over to MeUndies, which is, of course, a very emerging D2C brand? What have been some of the differences from a marketing perspective, and how have you approached that?
Yeah, it's been interesting having worked on legacy brands, where your name is so well known, but you actually have to take the time now to make sure that your brand proposition continues to resonate and thrive in a new marketplace. Whereas, and also learn how the digital world works, because you're so used to brick and mortar. Whereas here with MeUndies, we have sort of the D2C nailed down. And, one of my focuses is how do you now amplify the brand to make sure we continue to cut through the noise, especially as the legacy brands within my space are starting to accelerate their own D2C presence. So how do we continue to drive who we are, protect what we know we are best at, beyond just the technical, but really what our value prop is? So how do you continue to drive that at scale and make sure that we cultivate our community, engage with them, and expand them?
Speaking of scale, we have, of course, Christopher from Walmart. Can you tell us a little bit about how Walmart has really, been at the forefront of fashion over the last couple of years, and what the plans are kind of moving into the future?
Yeah, the scale is, before I entered the company, I knew it was big, but when you actually get in, it's massive. It's beyond massive. And really that's the opportunity, right? We're the country's largest omni-channel retailer, right? So, I think we've got some stats like 90% of the US population lives within 10 miles of a Walmart. Our .com is growing in leaps and bounds. So we have this incredible reach and penetration. And we think of the customer first in everything we do. So, we saw an opportunity to refocus the fashion business to cater what people want, and really give them great style at a great price point, while they're out getting their groceries or doing their Saturday shopping run. So, our focus is saving time and saving money for our customers. This helps them save time because it's one-stop shop, and save money. So our merchants have been really laser focused in on honing that product mix strategy, having the right national brands mixed with the right private label brands, and then of course innovating and launching along the way. Last year we brought back Scoop New York, which is a huge label that people were huge fans of, but we brought it back at a moderate price point. We just launched Free Assembly, for example. We hired one of the designers from Old Navy and J. Crew to create a collection for men and women of great basics, and it's doing really, really well. So it's focusing on giving quality and style at a great price point, and quite frankly, at a place that people haven't thought of for fashion before. They've thought of as really, foundational fashion, and not even really basic in a fashion sense. So it's been exciting to see that. We've got an incredible team of merchants with a great focus. And it definitely is hitting with the customer both online and in store.
I definitely saw a pair of $44 Birkenstocks, white, They're gorgeous. I bought them yesterday right on Walmart.com. So definitely getting a bang for your buck for sure.
And that's the exciting thing too, is you can also, we've got the store customer, we've got the online customer. The online customer is limitless. So really, thank you. I'm thrilled to see you found some great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Shelby, you talked a bit about activewear, of course, and that is certainly a category that is exploding, and especially in the face of all of the lifestyle changes that are happening this year. Can you tell us a little bit about how the brand is kind of approaching, all of the changes that are happening this year from a lifestyle perspective?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've seen a shift from commuter wear towards more comfortable loungewear. We've all entered this new routine of we're on Zoom all the time, really only from like your waist up matters at this point. So you can kind of keep it more comfortable, like with maybe like a track pant or a sweatpant or whatever you need on the bottom, if you can get away with it. And then we have like our commuter dress shirts and our commuter quarter zips that really look great on like a conference call. Like obviously, traditionally these things have proven themselves in practice in like their namesake, commuting, but where people are at home more, we're providing that comfort aspect. So you're not wearing like a really rigid, stiff, not breathable thing while you're sitting at your desk all day. And then we've moved to things like, we've focused and really leaned into loungewear recovery. Like we've noticed, we need to be providing, we're like listening to our customer all the time, always putting little like prompts on our Instagram saying like, what do you guys need? What can we do more for you? And then taking that direct input and telling our product team and then running with it. So like we're coming out with a lot of great new products that are going to be really suiting the at home and, comfort part. Like people need to be professional and at home, but you need to be like comfortable in what you're living in. So we're really excited to be able to have the opportunity to, seize it and run with it. And we've seen just great responses. We have a Facebook group, actually. We have like a really, close group of 3,000 guys, and they all kind of bounce off, recommendations or experiences. And this guy had said that he has been living in his like spar pant this whole time, and he was like, and they finally gave out after like months and months of daily wear, and we were like so glad to hear that they were tried and true, and excited to see what he was going to like move on to next. So it's been really exciting to see people integrate the professional wear and be able to be in it at home, but also kind of integrate these new pieces. And I feel so lucky that we're able to cover all the bases there for whoever is shopping at Rhone.
Is that Facebook group almost like a focus group of consumers?
Totally. Yeah. So we started that a couple years ago, and it grew super quick and by word of mouth. And, you can invite, however, I don't know if you guys are in Facebook groups yourself, but it's just a small community, and we offer them early access to some of our new launches, or if there's events that are local to them, like in the New York area, a lot of them are from New York. We make sure that they know that they have the ability to go. We often will ask them questions, and we want to hear what they have to say. I mean, it's a safe space to give us, be brutally honest, and we don't get our feelings hurt. It's just, it's a really special group that we appreciate and value so much. And they, kind of groups sometimes can tend to go maybe a negative route, but these guys keep it really positive. They're there for each other. They're providing recommendations on how to, keep busy at home, or, new routines, new workouts, playlists, podcasts. They really talk about everything. It's awesome.
Smart and really innovative way to use social for sure. And Jeremy, speaking about innovation from a subscription model perspective, that is certainly something new to the category. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the impetus of that? And also on your website, right, you also have partner matching. Tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, again, I think what is unique about MeUndies is we offer the subscription idea. So it brings down the price of our underwear for you pretty dramatically, roughly about 30% savings by becoming an underwear or a sock subscriber, but that also then unlocks savings for our entire portfolio. So again, it's about cultivating that member and bringing them in, and then offering them things like early access to new prints And what being a subscriber for MeUndies is, again, why does your underwear drawer have to be so boring of just solids? And what we've really sort of innovated on is having new prints that come out every week. So from a marketing perspective, I actually, making this transition from beauty into underwear, everyone thought that would be difficult, but I actually liken it to color cosmetics, where you're constantly innovating and storytelling. And I'm used to putting out collections on a monthly basis. Now I do it on a weekly basis. So it keeps our community truly engaged and excited about whatever we're going to come out with, whether it's that, we just launched koalas this week, or, a couple months ago, we launched our partnership, or it's our reoccurring partnership with Star Wars, with the child. So we keep them guessing, and they keep coming back. And every Tuesday we have this new print drop. And people are chomping at the bit to know what we're going to launch, when we're going to launch it, and before we sell out of it, how do we get them in? How do they get their pair? In terms of matching pairs, I think people are constantly looking for shared experiences, and underwear isn't something that you see, but if you're partnered, you kind of have one of that like shared experience where no one else knows what's going on, but you two do. So by getting somebody into this matching pairs model, you can buy underwear for yourself and also for your partner. We've seen that as a huge success for us. Valentine's Day is one of our major tentpole moments where we're able to capitalize on our matching pairs marketing experience, and we see a lot of people coming in through that journey. And it's something that we've really built our business on, which is really exciting, and for me to be able to continue to take it forward to new levels.
Bringing experiences into retail is really interesting. And from a storytelling perspective, you have done a lot of work with influencers. We know a little bit about that at Influential, but would love to hear from you. What is your approach with influencers? What do you see as the benefits of leveraging influencers? How have they been helpful to MeUndies and your brand growth story?
Yeah, I've worked with influencers in so many formats over the past, decade. I think they've just taken different shapes. They used to be brand ambassadors that then, you'd have one or two who were sort of micro celebrities. And then they would just, then you'd just be paying them to, talk about your product. And now they've become not only talking about your product, but for us, it's about how do you whitelist their content, because it's a sort of a two-way benefit for both the brand and the influencer. For us, we get to tap into a new audience that we may not necessarily have access to. And for the influencer, because we're putting dollars behind their channel, it gets them access to new followers that they may not have access to because of just the financial means. But for me, as a marketer, finding and cultivating those relationships with influencers is really important at an early stage, and making sure that those relationships are truly authentic and that they can speak to the brand in their tone of voice, but in a very real way. I think that historically, you look at the celebrity model, which I've worked in, you're constantly paying celebrities to talk about your brand with which they may have had no experience prior. And it becomes sometimes a little bit disingenuous. So I think the model has shifted, even with the true celebrities, pop celebrities, where you want to find people who have used your brand or share the same values that you do, because it's an easier conversation for them with their community, and for us to be able to explain why we've brought those influencers onto the brand. So it's a two-way street for me.
Christopher, I know you've done a lot of work with influencers with Walmart. Can you tell us about that as well?
Yeah, it's very much like what Jeremy was just saying, but it goes back to the scale, right? So reaching 90% of the population, there are so many subsets of that population that we need to speak to. And influencer is a great way to identify those groups and find those groups. So we've been pretty hot on micro influencers for the most part, identifying with people that fit into the various life stages, life moments, life demographics that we appeal to. So it allows us to cast a pretty wide net to speak to our customers through a trusted voice and someone who's like them, right? So it's really about being able to speak to the customer, have the dialogue, continue the dialogue, and we've seen it work. I mean, every time we do influencer work in the fashion space, we see great results. It's consistently super strong across all platforms, and it's an exciting area that we continue to invest in and will continue to invest in the future. As long as it works, we'll be putting money in it.
How do you measure the effectiveness?
Really it goes back to engagement and then, sales. Everything we do is very sales focused. Even in upper funnel tactics where it's a little harder to prove conversion, we find ways to try and prove conversion. It has worked exceptionally well in our new private label launches where we have seen sellouts of product within 5 to 10 days online, all attributed to influencer posts where an influencer styled the product in a different way. And it goes back to what I was saying about disrupting what people think, right? People have this preconceived notion of what Walmart fashion would be. Influencer is a perfect place to break that down and say, gee, here's a really fashionable person styling products from Walmart in a really great way. And oh my gosh, they're from Walmart and they're at a great price point. So there's so many levels that it works for us and is effective.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think a lot of folks who are less familiar with the strategy of influencer marketing kind of do think of it more as a top of funnel type of model, but really the space has advanced so much over the last few years. And now you can do a lot more measurement, a lot more sophisticated marketing strategies, audience segmentation strategies, measuring offline to online conversions as well. And Jeremy, I know that you focus a lot on CPA, right? And influencers has been really helpful from that perspective as well, right?
100%. I think we've been able to utilize influencers across the funnel. And to your point, we do measure them at a CPA level because we can see what their conversion rate looks like. And based on what we're paying them, is it worth our while to continue that partnership? And I think that also continues to incentivize the influencer to continue to work with us and the type of content that they create for us. But I think what's been interesting, both, again, MeUndies is a totally online business. We have one freestanding store, but in my past life, we've been able to take the influencers and move them offline, sending them into stores and having them, sending them into an Ulta. And then it becomes, again, it's this joint partnership of, we have the influencer, we're sending them into a key retailer, they're filming content in there, it benefits all parties. So again, how do you take the consumer through that whole journey and make the influencer a part of that user experience?
Shelby, what about you? How are you leveraging influencers for Rhone?
Yeah, we use influencers across the board. We always have people sliding into our DMs from all walks of life. They're traveling, they are athletes, they are photographers. But we always work. We entertain these different relationships that come through, and we either cross promote. We utilize that user generated content all the time, whether it's on emails or our own social channels. We think that relatability aspect is really huge. Professional photography and professional shoots are awesome, but relatability is something we're always striving for as well. And I think that we've really leaned into that UGC aspect. We also have our Outliers program, which is kind of like a elite influencers type thing. They are influencers in their own right, but there was so much more to us. We work consistently with these outliers, and we're so lucky that we got to grow this program this year. These people are journalists, they're professional athletes, they're photographers. Maybe they were going down a professional athlete road, and then that didn't fill their heart and purpose. So they kind of took it into their own hands and got a little bit more innovative with it. And we love that storyline of taking your talents and your strengths and channeling them into something that's more fulfilling and inspirational and meaningful to you. So our Outliers program is something we love to highlight. And these people have their own audiences with their own interests. So you've got a photographer who specializes in nighttime photography, and then you get to be exposed to these photographers that you probably would never get in front of, and get a really personal storytelling opportunity with that photographer. And then you have, the young wake surfer who, I don't know, is wake surfing against a wall in Lake Powell, and people just enjoy seeing our product put to practice in that way that maybe they would never personally get to experience. But it's just always keeping those different categories and audiences that span across all those different professions, like interested, up to date on like current products. And we like to, kind of hand select new pieces that fit their lifestyle. So we're not just kind of like blanket seeding all the new products to every single person. Like, we really tailor what each person is getting to make sure that it represents in their needs and like their function as best as possible.
It sounds like storytelling is really a, huge part of the DNA of the brand. What are some kind of creative strategies and some marketing campaigns that you're most proud of this year?
We actually are just launching our Essentials collection. It's live on Rhone today, and it actually is getting the red carpet's getting rolled out on Saturday. And it's kind of a culmination of, providing the building bricks that every man needs. Like, really, these pieces are getting incorporated into every facet of your day-to-day. MeUndies can speak to this. Everyone loves a fabulous pair of underwear. But it's also, it's a V-neck, it's a crew neck, it's your undershirt, it's for day-to-day, it's for like at home. But bringing this new launch to life is really a culmination of all of the new practices we've had to discover this year. Like, we used to do everything very hands-on. We have our internal team at every single shoot. We would be traveling, really close proximity to each other. And we had to kind of figure out, how do we continue to launch all of these beautiful products? We don't get to be right up in it. So we got to explore flat lays, which we always discussed in the past, but didn't really know how to tackle. And we really leaned into that approach this year. It's been fabulous for us. We have a great little photographer who's just so excited to give us all the cool flat lay kind of concepts we need. If you guys go to the Essentials page, you'll see what I'm talking about. And then outsourcing these on-model photography shoots with people who can just we were maybe stuck in a rut and we were getting kind of repetitive, and they take it to the next level. And then we do these micro local shoots where you'd think, you travel and you do these huge, shoots out of another state, but really keeping it local and focusing more on the product and the stretch and getting more romantic with it, I guess. It's pulling all of those pieces together in a new creative way to bring something that we're so excited and have put a ton of work into this year to life in a new way that I'd be curious to see, what this would have looked like versus what the new approach is. And I think that as a strange consequence, the new version is just so much more fun and better. So I'm really excited to see that come to life.
Yeah, I think one of the silver linings of this year is innovation, right? There's just such a tremendous opportunity to innovate. I mean, across the board for all of you guys, how have you seen your brands really innovate this year?
I can jump in. I think for us, data is really important. We have a tremendous data file. It's almost bigger than what we know to do, how to manipulate it. It's daunting, but we've gotten really smart at building tools internally that help us see the data, look at the customer trends, see what the customers are reacting to, and it informs every facet of our business. So there's the store data, which is exceptionally valuable. There's the online data where we can get quick hits and see how people are reacting to product and how they're behaving within our platform. So really, the innovation for me that's been really exciting is leaning into data in a meaningful way, in a heavier way, and using that data to really inform our decisions, whether it's a merchant decision, our media group's decision, our marketing decisions. It really is a key factor to what we do, and it gives us the foundation to make smarter decisions and smarter choices.
I just want to build on that. I think what's interesting for me is, coming from the bigger companies where our version of data was not a primary sources of data, since we didn't have e-com, and it was all third-party data or coming from shopper data at our retail partners. So a lot of it is around, there's a lot of art that goes into, especially in cosmetics and storytelling, and there is data-backed decision making. And when you go to a fully D2C digitally native brand, everything is data driven. And sometimes you can put blinders on to the art and the unpredictable. So I think for me, what has been great in making the shift from, and having now worked in both worlds, is how do you marry art and science back together? Because if you become so data heavy, you almost become predictable and formulaic. And how do you maintain some of the spontaneity and unpredictable and gut decisions that also continue to make your business a little bit different? So I think it's about how do you balance those two? And I think, when it comes to innovation for this year, because this brand was already thriving in the digital space, it was about how do you continue to do what you do best, and how do you take what we do and inspire a larger community? And I think it's what actually came to the forefront for us was, one of the reasons I joined was around the brand values. And we have a program called MeUndies Gives, where we take our values and partner with nonprofits to help amplify their message through our platform, and how do they marry together. And whether it's the pandemic and giving back to the local communities in LA, or even we have a partnership for LGBTQ with the It Gets Better project. And then even when the Black Lives Matter movement came, it was how do we use our voice for something greater than just product? How do we use our voice to engage, enable, and activate our own community, to make the world a better place, but still fits within our wheelhouse? So to me, it's about how I have an amazing team across the board, and they're so passionate. And it was about rallying around whatever causes we felt were necessary for us to use our brand voice and power behind, beyond just product.
Yeah, we actually, I'll finish off the question series here. So with like what you were talking about with leaning into your community, we, in the first few months of quarantine, we ramped up our output of content 3 times, and it was kind of like, let's do this let's make it happen, pull it out of thin air. And we didn't have to pull it out of thin air because we had such a amazing community. So I think where you have to get innovative versus your traditional media of keeping your content development internal, you're writing, you're producing the content, you're producing the articles. We leaned in so heavily to, everyone kind of maybe had some spare time on their hands. They were maybe traveling or going out as much. They were just kind of ready to help. We were so lucky to lean into that, and we were able to provide a huge database and resource for the Pursue, our online journal, of all facets, workout from home. We did Instagram lives, which we really hadn't experimented much with. And there was definitely that peak of Instagram lives where you couldn't escape it for the first couple of months, and that kind of dipped off. But we leaned hard and wanted to provide workout from home, live workouts at 3 times a week with our community members that were either in New York or California or Tennessee. And then even the mental aspect. So we're not just worried about providing fitness, we're worried about people's mental health during this time, and making sure that we are providing healthy direction, healthy ideas, how to stay productive and busy, how to take a second and work on your breathing, which is something that personally I didn't even really know much about, and feeling thankful that we had the capabilities to utilize this community from all facets to really bring that to life and help our community. And we always are doing pulse checks to say, how are you guys feeling? Use the slider, let us know, what can we do to help you? What are you interested in learning more about? We don't want to just be kind of spitting repetitive or going towards a topic that isn't resonating or isn't useful at the time. So yeah.
So important to be connected to your audience, for sure. Speaking of audience, we have so many great questions coming in from the audience. So let's shift gears and answer some of these great questions. All right, so this is from Brad. When working with influencers other than reach, what are some things that get you excited about someone? And more importantly, what are some things to stay away from?
I'll jump in. So reach is obviously super important. You want to make sure that their audience is in alignment with what you're selling. So we get some great female influencers, and unfortunately, as much as I would love to work with more, unless they have a really heavy male shopping audience, you want to make sure that there's alignment there with the demographics. And then I think it's really important to find influencers who are creators and are, especially right now, where working, collaborating with other people, more people in a closed space when you're creating content. You want to have someone who can be self-sufficient, create high quality content on their own, and maybe will take it and go run with it and like provide a different perspective that you wouldn't. And that's like the whole point. You want people to like cater to their strengths and their perspective and their voice that is going to resonate with their audience. And you're not kind of just having them relay what you would have done internally, because that kind of defeats the purpose. You could just do it yourself then. So it's really trusting them. Find someone that you trust, can execute their vision in a high quality way, and then even provide you with some things that you can reshare later down the road, in addition to them sharing on their platforms.
Great insights.
I'll build on that really quickly, because yes, and to all of that is, I look at influencers I want to look at their active engagement of their audience. I think there's a lot of people historically who just either passively followed people, and to me that doesn't show the quality of their audience. And I want to see if their followers are actually engaging with them in dialogue, and that could be as something as simple as a comment, but like a true qualitative comment. Also, are sharing the content, saving the content, because that means they're really they're invested in the influencer that they're following. I think the likes, as everyone knows, are just so passive, and I don't think has as much value anymore. So that's something I really look to is active audience.
I also think you need to find an influencer that is into your brand, in your brand messaging. I mean, everything that Jeremy and Shelby just said, absolutely +1. But I do think, when you find an influencer that gets what you're doing, believes in the product, styles it with they're engaged in the product, then they do great work. And those are the influencers that we go back to and work with again and again. And I do that at Walmart. I did that in my past in working with some luxury clients. And when you find someone who's passionate about the brand, it makes a big difference, and they do great work.
What can heritage brands learn from newer digital first brands when it comes to authentically marketing to Gen Z? Such a good question.
Yeah, I think not being afraid to ask open-ended questions and not be afraid to hear like honest answers and then have the ability to pivot and act on them. I think that something we learned this year was like you have to be flexible, and as a team, everyone you might have a traditional plan that has been tried and true for years, but you need to be comfortable or learn to be comfortable with adjusting and listening to, reading the room, so to speak, in the room being like the world, and understanding what people want and listening to them and acting upon that information is the best thing you can do. I think you don't even have to speculate. There's so many venues that you can utilize in real time to learn firsthand directly from them what they want. So that would be my take on that.
I'd also say, as someone who worked on a few legacy brands, is know who you are and know why you continue to exist as a brand. Don't try to be something you're not, because try to become whatever you think is what these other customers want, and it doesn't really fit who you are. They see right through that, and it actually will just become a failure. So I think you can evolve who you are, but don't try to become something that you're not just to capitalize on a movement. Or people look for transparency and authenticity in messaging, and I think that to me and that goes both directions. I think it's something legacy brands need to look to.
I would just add I think those are both great comments. I would add to it too, from a channel selection or platform selection choice. I mean, constantly be testing and learning, and follow the customer. Wherever the customer is where you want to speak to them. And sometimes you need to be on the lookout to places you might not think they are, and they are there. So explore and experiment with different platforms, and always be looking to where the customer is, because they are always right in hand.
I have one other piece, and I'm going to flip the question. What can native D2C brands learn from legacy brands? Because I don't think that ever gets asked. I've sat through, on many a call where, people who sort of grow up in the digital D2C native world don't have, I'm going to say, proper respect for the legacy brands. They're like, oh, they're old and dated. And my flip on that is, well, they're called legacy for a reason. It's because they've been able to stand the test of time. And, where I think digitally native brands can learn from legacy brands is actually the art of storytelling at the highest level, because they've been able to emotionally capture the hearts and share of wallet of customers over the course of multiple generations. And I think there's something, so that's why I think there's lessons to be learned on both ends. And why you even see, as Chris was saying, thinking about distribution channels, I think this pandemic has made both types of companies and brands do some internal learning around, hey, you can't be dependent on one type of channel. And that goes for legacy and for digital brands as well, because consumers don't behave the way in which we think they always do. They are looking at everything at all places, at all touch points. I think retail will change, but I think people still crave community, in-person community, and touch. And that's not something that the digital universe can provide right now.
Great. Such great insights. We are almost at time, and I really want to know from each of you, I can't even believe that it's like almost the end of the year. What are your predictions for 2021 as it relates to, fashion, social influencers? What are your predictions?
I can jump in. Sorry, just say I'll jump in really quick. I do think what I hope is that creativity will still flourish and continue to flourish. I think during challenging times, creativity comes out and people think of things in a different way and experiment. And I think of the early days of the pandemic, we were all sort of watching these weird Saturday Night Live episodes where it was all remote. People were doing FaceTime and like we are doing right now, or doing Zoom meetings. But like a couple weeks into it, people started to play with the format and get creative, and some really great work was done. And I've seen some people take this format and do some really interesting work with it. So I hope that creativity will continue to flourish. I think it makes people pause and rethink, and I think that the fashion industry will absolutely benefit from that. I think that the division between sort of mass and luxury will continue to happen. It's going to put more pressure on the middle, and the middle is going to have to really rely on creativity to stand out and really connect with customers. So that's kind of my POV on that. I listen, whenever things are challenging, things can get exciting.
I love that.
Shelby, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think what we've learned is that comfort is king. And I think that you're just going to see many brands lean into that, whatever their take on that means, and how they can effectively, translate that into their new pieces that they're launching. And I think that maybe, like what you were saying, getting creative about how you express yourself on a Zoom call, or however people are going to be working in 2021. Maybe people are rethinking their wardrobe in terms of like how many pieces they are investing in. Personally, I don't have any need to go shopping anymore. So I just really get a couple key pieces that I know work and are effective and, fit this new lifestyle. So I think that comfort and like what you were saying, creativity to, show up and be representative of yourself, but like not be uncomfortable is so important.
I agree with everything that's been said. I think comfort and being who you are is going to continue to thrive into the future. I saw someone wearing a suit the other day outside, and I had to stop and look at them and like, what are you doing? I don't understand. What did I miss? I think those days are potentially gone. But I think back to my earlier comment, I think what will continue to evolve is the retail experience, and whatever that means, being it online. I think we'll start to see better ways to shop online that are more immersive. But I think the brick and mortar experience, while it won't go away, I think it will evolve to what does it mean to have a freestanding store, which in my mind, especially as we have our owned retail store, it is the best expression because it really taps into all senses. And how does touch, feel, education all play into an in-store experience, and what does it mean? So I think that's I think on the non-apparel side, I think we're going to see home office start to come back, which I never thought I would ever say, but I say it from a personal perspective. I think that's going to be a massive trend of how do we all work from home differently and more comfortably, both in clothes and just environment.
Such great insights, innovation, comfort. I love it. I think there's a lot to look forward to in 2021 for sure. I see Chris joined us.
I am back to shake things up. So thank you guys so much. That was a fantastic session. Shelby, Jeremy, Christopher, and of course, Adrienne. Loved getting the perspective of all of these different companies that touch different aspects of the fashion industry. I myself come from the fashion industry long, long ago. So it was really great to hear that from all of you guys. Thank you so much for your participation. Really enjoyed hearing from all of you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to our next panel. We have an awesome panel coming up. We're joined by Katie Hassan, the Vice President of Brand Marketing for Tula Skincare, and a very special guest, Shawn Johnson East, Olympic gold medalist in women's gymnastics, an author and an entrepreneur, and also her second time on the BI influential panel. She was with us a couple months ago as well. This session will be moderated by Tiffany Pettit, the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Influential. Such an awesome honor to have you both on here. Welcome to the stage, Katie and Shawn.
Hello.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, Katie. Hi, Shawn. How are you guys?